Imagine this, a 55-year-old businessman, polished suit, years of hard-earned success behind him, walks into a boardroom filled with colleagues and partners. He has closed deals worth millions, mentored rising leaders, and built a reputation as someone who always has the right answer at the right time. But today, in this high-stakes meeting, something unexpected happens. He turns to greet a longtime business partner, someone he has known for years, and suddenly, his mind goes blank. He cannot recall the partner's name. His smile freezes, the room grows uncomfortably silent, and for the first time in decades, he feels a sharp sting of embarrassment, even fear. If he could forget something so simple, what else might slip away next? This moment is more than awkward, it's terrifying. Because deep down, we all fear that one day, our brain will betray us. That the sharpness we once took for granted will dull, and the confidence we built over a lifetime will begin to crumble. But here's the question, why is it that some people at 70 can still deliver brilliant speeches, learn new skills, and stay mentally quick, while others at 40 already find themselves forgetting names, misplacing keys, and struggling to keep up? The truth is, aging is inevitable, but a declining brain doesn't have to be. Science now shows us that your brain has incredible potential to stay young, flexible, and sharp far beyond what we used to believe. And the choices you make every single day, what you eat, how you move, how you rest, how you connect with others, can literally shape the future of your mind. So in this video, we're going to unlock the secrets of keeping your brain young. We'll explore not only the science but also real-life stories, of people who defied expectations and kept their minds razor-sharp well into their later years. From the foods you eat to the exercises you choose, from the way you manage stress to the relationships you build, you'll discover proven strategies to keep your brain not just alive, but thriving. Because here's the empowering truth, your brain doesn't have to grow old just because you do. To truly understand how to keep your brain young, we first need to face the reality of how the brain changes with age. Just like our muscles grow weaker if we don't exercise them, our brain also goes through natural shifts as the years pass. The neurons that once fired messages at lightning speed begin to slow down. The connections between different regions of the brain, which used to work like a superhighway, may start to resemble a winding country road. Memory slips become more common, focus takes more effort, and the ability to juggle multiple tasks isn't as sharp as it once was. Scientists have long studied these changes, and the evidence is clear, the aging brain is real. One striking study in the United States focused on older drivers. Researchers found that as people age, their reaction times slow, their ability to process new information on the road decreases, and the risks of accidents rise significantly. This doesn't mean that aging drivers are doomed to lose control, it simply shows how the brain, much like the body, requires extra care to maintain its edge. But here's the part that too often gets overlooked, decline is not the whole story. For decades, we believed the brain was like a machine, slowly wearing out over time until it was beyond repair. Now we know this is false. The human brain is astonishingly adaptable. It has what neuroscientists call neuroplasticity, the ability to rewire itself, form new connections, and even grow new cells throughout life. In other words, your brain is not fixed. It is alive, dynamic, and capable of change at any age. Think about that for a moment. It means a 65-year-old can learn to play the piano for the first time. A retiree can pick up a new language and speak it fluently. An older adult who engages in mental challenges can actually build stronger neural pathways than someone decades younger who coasts through life without stimulating their mind. The potential is extraordinary. Of course, the brain does require certain conditions to thrive. If left neglected, starved of sleep, overloaded with stress, or deprived of meaningful activity, it will show signs of wear much sooner. But when nurtured, it can surprise us. Imagine an athlete training for the Olympics. The body adapts to the intensity, growing stronger with each challenge. The brain works in much the same way. Each time you give it something new, whether it's a puzzle, a conversation, or a skill to master, you are effectively training it to stay agile. The message is clear: while aging may bring changes to the brain, it doesn't seal your fate. You are not destined to fade into forgetfulness. The science of neuroplasticity shows that the brain is more resilient than we ever imagined, and that the choices you make today will determine how sharp and youthful your mind remains tomorrow. So as we move forward, keep this truth in mind: your brain is a lifelong learner. And with the right habits, you can not only slow down the aging process but actually unlock greater clarity, creativity, and mental strength, a new thought possible. If you've ever heard the phrase "you are what you eat," it's more true for the brain than almost any other part of the body. Every thought you have, every memory you hold onto, every spark of creativity is fueled by the nutrients you put on your plate. The brain makes up only about 2% of your body weight, yet it consumes roughly 20% of the energy you take in each day. That means the quality of your diet directly determines whether your brain hums like a finely tuned engine or sputters like an old machine running on bad fuel. One of the most powerful discoveries in recent decades is the impact of the Mediterranean diet on brain health. This isn't just another fad, it's a way of eating deeply rooted in tradition and science. Rich in fish packed with omega-3 fatty acids, vibrant vegetables, leafy greens, nuts, olive oil, and colorful berries, the Mediterranean diet has been shown to lower the risk of Alzheimer's disease and sharpen memory well into older age. Omega-3s, for instance, are like high-quality oil for your brain's machinery. They keep cell membranes flexible and communication between neurons fast and efficient. Antioxidants in blueberries and spinach fight the oxidative stress that damages brain cells over time. Even spices like turmeric, with its active compound curcumin, act as natural anti-inflammatories, protecting the brain from silent damage that accumulates with age. Let's make it real with a story. In one study, middle-aged adults in the U.S. who shifted their diets from processed foods and sugary drinks to a Mediterranean-style pattern experienced noticeable improvements in memory and focus in just a matter of months. One participant, a 48-year-old teacher who often struggled with forgetfulness, reported that after replacing sodas with water, fast food with salmon and salads, and desserts with fresh fruit, she not only lost weight but also found herself recalling student names faster and feeling more mentally alert. Her brain wasn't slowing down, it was waking up. But just as important as what you add is what you avoid. The modern American diet is often overloaded with refined sugar, unhealthy fats, and processed snacks. These foods may give you a temporary burst of energy, but in the long run, they fuel inflammation, clog blood vessels, and impair the brain's ability to function efficiently. Think of it as filling a sports car with cheap fuel. The engine sputters, performance drops, and long-term damage becomes inevitable. Research has linked high sugar consumption not only to diabetes but also to impaired memory and a higher risk of dementia. The takeaway is simple yet profound: every meal is a choice between fueling decline or fueling vitality. By choosing foods that nurture the brain, you're not just protecting yourself against disease, you're investing in sharper focus today, stronger memory tomorrow, and long-term resilience for decades to come. So the next time you sit down at the dinner table, think beyond your waistline. Think about your mind. Ask yourself, will this meal keep me mentally young, or will it silently age my brain before its time? Because the truth is, your fork is one of the most powerful tools you have to shape the future of your brain. If nutrition provides the raw materials for a healthy brain, then physical exercise is the spark that keeps it alive, vibrant, and fully awake. The connection between movement and mental clarity is so powerful that neuroscientists often call exercise miracle grow for the brain. Every time you lace up your shoes and start moving, your heart pumps harder, sending oxygen-rich blood to your brain. This surge of oxygen nourishes brain cells, clears away waste, and stimulates the release of chemicals that help neurons grow stronger connections. It's no exaggeration to say that a brisk walk can literally rewire your brain. One of the most remarkable examples comes from a man in Texas, affectionately known in his town as the running grandfather. At the age of 80, he doesn't just stroll around the park, he runs marathons. What surprises people even more than his endurance is his mental sharpness. While many his age struggle with memory lapses, he can recall details, names, and stories from decades ago with crystal clarity. Doctors who studied him noted that his active lifestyle kept his hippocampus, the memory center of the brain, as healthy as that of someone 30 years younger. His story is a living testament. When you move your body, you protect your mind. Science confirms what this grandfather's life shows us. Regular physical exercise reduces the risk of Alzheimer's disease by up to 40%, according to long-term studies. It also stimulates the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, often described as fertilizer for neurons. BDNF helps brain cells survive longer, grow new branches, and communicate more efficiently. Imagine your brain as a vast forest. Without exercise, the trees become dry and brittle. With exercise, the forest thrives, lush, green, and alive with growth. The good news is that you don't have to run marathons to keep your brain young. Even moderate activity makes a huge difference. A daily 30-minute brisk walk can improve memory and focus within weeks. Swimming not only strengthens the body but also promotes a meditative rhythm that calms stress while stimulating the brain. Yoga combines gentle movement, balance, and deep breathing, all of which enhance both physical and mental resilience. And don't underestimate dancing. When you move to music, your brain isn't just exercising. It's also processing rhythm, coordinating movement, and often enjoying the social joy of being with others. It's like a full workout for both the body and the mind. Perhaps most importantly, exercise also protects mental health. Depression and anxiety are strongly linked to an increased risk of cognitive decline, but physical activity acts like a natural antidepressant. When you finish a workout, your brain releases endorphins, dopamine, and serotonin, chemicals that lift your mood and keep stress hormones in check. Over time, these positive effects build a buffer against the damaging impact of chronic stress on the brain. Think of exercise not as a chore, but as an investment. Each step you take, each stretch you make, is a small deposit into your brain's health bank account. The earlier you start, the richer the rewards. But even if you begin late in life, the benefits are almost immediate. A study from the University of Illinois found that older adults who started walking regularly improved their memory scores after just 6 months. It's never too late to give your brain the gift of movement. So the next time you feel too busy to exercise, remember this: your body may crave rest, but your brain is begging for movement. Whether it's walking, swimming, yoga, or dancing, find the activity you enjoy and make it part of your life. Because every time you move, You're not just building muscle, you're keeping your brain young, sharp, and ready for the future. If physical exercise strengthens your body and fuels your brain with oxygen, intellectual exercise is what keeps those neurons firing in new and exciting ways. Think of your brain as a muscle. Just like lifting weights at the gym builds stronger biceps, challenging your mind builds stronger neural connections. Without challenge, the brain becomes sluggish. With challenge, it stays sharp, creative, and resilient. One of the most powerful concepts in neuroscience is neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize and grow new pathways, no matter your age. Every time you try something unfamiliar, you're literally sculpting your brain. It doesn't matter if you're 25 or 75, learning a new skill creates fresh wiring in your neural network. This is why mental challenges are often described as a gym for the mind. And like any gym, consistency matters. Let's look at a real-life example. A woman named Margaret, a retired teacher in her early 70s, decided she didn't want to spend her golden years fading into routine. Instead, she signed up for a beginner's computer programming class. At first, she was overwhelmed, lines of code seemed like a foreign language. But she stuck with it, treating each mistake as a puzzle rather than a failure. Within 2 years, Margaret launched a small online business, building websites for local non-profits. Her memory improved, her focus sharpened, and she described feeling more alive than at any time in the last 20 years. Stories like hers show that intellectual challenges don't just keep you entertained, they keep your brain biologically younger. Science backs this up. Studies show that people who engage in mentally stimulating activities, like learning a new language, playing a musical instrument, or solving puzzles, have a significantly lower risk of dementia. Activities that force your brain to think in novel ways strengthen the prefrontal cortex and hippocampus, the regions responsible for decision-making and memory. It's as if each new skill builds an extra safety net against cognitive decline. So what does this mean for you? It means it's time to get curious again. Learn Spanish, Mandarin, or French. Pick up a guitar or piano and stumble through those first awkward notes. Try chess, crosswords, Sudoku, or even strategy-based video games that demand planning and foresight. Each of these activities acts like resistance training for your mind. They're not just pastimes, they're brain investments. But here's the key, variety matters. If you only ever do crossword puzzles, your brain becomes efficient at crosswords but doesn't stretch much beyond that. The real growth happens when you constantly step into the unknown, when your neurons are forced to adapt. So don't just repeat what you're good at. Challenge yourself with something new, something slightly uncomfortable. That's where transformation happens. Intellectual exercise also brings a hidden bonus, confidence. As adults, many of us quietly fear losing mental sharpness. But each time you master a new skill, whether it's memorizing a poem, learning to paint, or figuring out how to code, you prove to yourself that your brain is still vibrant, still capable, still young. That self-belief is just as important as the neurological benefits. Remember this, the brain thrives on challenge the way fire thrives on oxygen. If you feed it novelty, complexity, and creativity, it grows stronger. If you starve it with monotony and routine, it dims. So don't let your mind sit idle. Stretch it, play with it, and push it in new directions. Whether you're 17 or 70, intellectual exercise can keep your brain not just alive, but young, adventurous, and endlessly capable. Imagine a surgeon standing over an operating table at 3 a.m., scalpel in hand. He has been on call for nearly 30 hours straight. His eyes burn, his thoughts blur, and his hands tremble ever so slightly. In a split second of fatigue, he makes a small but critical mistake. The consequences are devastating. This isn't fiction. Lack of sleep has been linked to countless medical errors, accidents, and life-altering lapses in judgment. And when it comes to your brain, chronic sleep deprivation is one of the fastest ways to accelerate decline. Sleep is not just time off. It is an active, complex process in which your brain repairs, reorganizes, and restores itself. During deep sleep, the brain consolidates memories, moving them from short-term storage to long-term archives. Without this nightly housekeeping, yesterday's lessons simply fade away. Research also shows that while we sleep, the brain's lymphatic system kicks into high gear, washing away toxic proteins like beta amyloid, one of the culprits behind Alzheimer's disease. In other words, sleep is like a janitor for your brain, sweeping out waste so your neurons can function clearly the next day. But when sleep is cut short, the effects are immediate and brutal. Miss a night of rest, and your reaction times slow dramatically, your focus fractures, and your memory slips. Over weeks and months, chronic sleep debt carves away at the hippocampus, the brain's memory hub, making you forgetful, foggy, and emotionally unstable. It is no coincidence that people who consistently sleep fewer than 6 hours per night show a higher risk of dementia, depression, and even stroke. The good news? Unlike aging itself, sleep is something you can directly improve. It's not about sheer quantity, it's about quality. 7 to 9 hours of restorative sleep is the sweet spot for most adults, but the depth of that sleep matters more than the number on the clock. Creating simple bedtime rituals can make all the difference. Dimming lights an hour before bed, silencing your phone, and keeping your bedroom cool and dark signal to your brain that it's time to power down. Even small practices like limiting caffeine after midday or practicing deep breathing before bed can shift your nervous system into rest mode. And don't underestimate the power of consistency. Going to bed and waking up at the same time every day trains your internal clock, making sleep more restorative. Think of it as giving your brain a reliable maintenance schedule instead of random repair jobs. The surgeon in that late-night operating room isn't just a cautionary tale, it's a reminder. A sharp brain isn't only built on learning, exercise, or diet, it is built on rest. Sleep is the reset button your mind presses each night, the invisible medicine that keeps your thoughts clear, your memory strong, and your creativity alive. Protect it fiercely, because without it, every other effort to keep your brain young will be fighting uphill. Picture this, a high-powered CEO sits in his corner office overlooking the Manhattan skyline. His company is thriving, profits are soaring, and on the surface, he appears to have it all. Yet behind the polished exterior, his body is under siege. Endless deadlines, sleepless nights, and constant pressure keep his stress hormones permanently elevated. One morning, in the middle of a board meeting, he collapses from a sudden stroke. He survives, but his sharpness is gone, his memory falters, and the empire he built now feels like sand slipping through his fingers. This is not an isolated tragedy. Chronic stress is one of the most dangerous, yet underestimated, enemies of the brain. When you live in a state of constant tension, your body floods with cortisol, the stress hormone designed to help you in emergencies. A little cortisol in short bursts is useful, it sharpens your focus and mobilizes energy. But when it never shuts off, it becomes toxic. Prolonged stress literally shrinks the hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for memory and learning. It also disrupts the prefrontal cortex, the command center for decision-making, and overactivates the amygdala, leaving you anxious, irritable, and reactive. Over time, This biochemical storm accelerates aging, leaving your brain weaker, more forgetful, and more vulnerable to depression or dementia. The science is sobering, but the solutions are surprisingly practical. One of the most powerful antidotes to stress is meditation. Neuroscientists have found that just 10 to 15 minutes of daily mindfulness can thicken the prefrontal cortex, calm the amygdala, and strengthen neural connections that regulate emotions. It is as if meditation acts like a weightlifting session for your mental resilience. Breathing techniques are another simple yet profound tool. Slow, deep breaths signal to your nervous system that you are safe, lowering cortisol within minutes. And then there's gratitude. It may sound simple, even cliché, but keeping a gratitude journal, writing down 3 things you are thankful for each night, rewires your brain to focus on abundance rather than scarcity. Research shows that gratitude practices increase dopamine and serotonin, the brain's natural antidepressants, lifting mood and protecting against the corrosive effects of stress. The CEO who collapsed is a stark reminder that success without balance is a ticking time bomb. You don't have to wait for burnout, illness, or breakdown to make a change. Stress will always be part of life, but how you respond determines whether it erodes your brain or strengthens it. By cultivating practices like meditation, mindful breathing, and gratitude, you turn stress from a silent assassin into a manageable challenge. Your brain is not just a machine to drive productivity, it is the seat of your creativity, your emotions, your memories. Protect it by taming stress, and you'll not only keep your mind young but also reclaim joy, clarity, and peace in the process. Imagine 2 neighbors in their 70s. One spends most of his days alone, sitting in front of the television, rarely picking up the phone or stepping outside. The other is constantly surrounded by friends. He plays cards on Thursdays, joins a walking group on weekends, and regularly checks in on his grandchildren. 10 years later, their paths diverge dramatically. The isolated man struggles with memory lapses and depression, while the socially engaged neighbor remains sharp, energetic, and full of life. What makes the difference? Human connection. The brain is not designed to thrive in isolation. From an evolutionary perspective, our survival has always depended on belonging to a tribe, on the exchange of voices, laughter, and shared stories. When you interact with others, your brain releases oxytocin and dopamine, hormones that reduce stress, boost mood, and strengthen neural circuits. Loneliness, on the other hand, acts like poison. Studies show that chronic isolation can be as damaging to health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, accelerating both cognitive decline and physical illness. Perhaps the most powerful evidence comes from the legendary Harvard study of adult development, one of the longest-running studies on human well-being. After tracking people for over 80 years, researchers discovered that the single most reliable predictor of a long, healthy, and mentally sharp life was not wealth, career success, or even genetics. It was the quality of their relationships. People who maintained close, supportive friendships not only lived longer but also had lower rates of memory loss and dementia. Strong social bonds literally keep your brain young. So how do you nurture these connections in today's fast-paced, often isolating world? It doesn't require grand gestures. Start simple, call an old friend you haven't spoken to in years. Schedule regular family dinners, where laughter and conversation flow freely. Join a community group, a book club, or even an online class that encourages real interaction. Volunteering is another powerful avenue. When you give your time to others, you not only create meaning but also form bonds that energize and uplift your mind. The key is consistency. Just as your body grows stronger with regular exercise, your brain becomes more resilient when social interactions are woven into your daily rhythm. Every smile shared, every story exchanged, every moment of genuine connection acts as a small shield against cognitive decline. At its core, keeping your brain young is not just about nutrition, exercise, or sleep. It is about remembering that we are wired for connection. Relationships are not a luxury, they are a necessity for mental vitality. If you want your brain to stay vibrant and youthful, don't underestimate the healing, energizing power of human connection. Call someone. Join something. Reach out. Because sometimes, the best medicine for the brain is simply another human being. Picture a young professional in his late 20s. Every morning, before even getting out of bed, he scrolls through emails, texts, and social media. By noon, his head feels cloudy. He forgets simple things, like where he placed his keys or the name of a colleague he just met. Despite being young, energetic, and well-educated, he's experiencing something called digital brain fog. Too much screen time, constant notifications, and endless multitasking have drained his focus and dulled his memory. This is the dark side of technology. We live in an age where information is at our fingertips, yet our attention spans are shrinking. Scientists have found that excessive reliance on smartphones and social media can rewire the brain, making it harder to concentrate, process deep information, or retain memories. In fact, the average American now checks their phone nearly 100 times a day. Each glance may seem harmless, but together, they fracture the brain's ability to focus. And when focus weakens, memory and creativity soon follow. But here is the good news: technology isn't the enemy. It's a powerful tool, and like any tool, its effect depends on how you use it. The same device that can distract you endlessly can also be your ally in keeping your brain sharp. Today, there are apps designed to train memory, improve focus, and even slow cognitive decline. Games that challenge you to remember sequences, solve puzzles, or learn new languages activate the brain's neuroplasticity, keeping it agile and engaged. Wearable devices can remind you to stand, breathe, or take a mindful break, helping you regulate stress before it takes its toll. The key is intentional use. Instead of letting technology control you, flip the script. Set boundaries, turn off unnecessary notifications, schedule digital detox hours, and replace passive scrolling with active learning. Use your phone to listen to an audiobook while walking, practice meditation with a guided app, or connect with a friend through a meaningful conversation instead of mindless likes. Think of technology as a double-edged sword. Left unchecked, it can dull your mental edge. Used wisely, it can sharpen it. The choice is yours. Imagine that same young professional, a year later, who has reshaped his digital habits. He spends less time scrolling and more time learning. He feels focused, energized, and clear-minded again. His phone is no longer a source of stress, but a partner in growth. Your brain deserves that balance. Don't let technology steal your attention, let it serve your potential. At this point, it's clear, no single habit can keep your brain young forever. Eating blueberries won't erase years of stress. Jogging daily won't fix the damage of chronic sleep deprivation. Meditation alone won't overcome a diet of fast food and sodas. The secret lies in synergy. It's the way all these elements, nutrition, movement, rest, mental stimulation, stress management, social connection, and mindful use of technology, come together that creates a powerful shield against cognitive decline. Think of your brain like a symphony. Each instrument, food, exercise, sleep, friendships, plays a role. On its own, One instrument may sound pleasant, but when combined, they create music that's vibrant and alive. In the same way, it's not one habit but the orchestra of habits, played in harmony, that keeps your brain sharp for decades. Nowhere is this more evident than in the blue zones, rare regions of the world where people live the longest, healthiest lives. One such place exists not across the ocean, but right here in the United States, Loma Linda, California. Here, it's common to meet people in their 90s or even over 100 who are still clear-minded, active, and full of purpose. Their secret isn't a miracle pill. It's a lifestyle. They eat mostly plant-based foods, they walk daily, they have strong faith and community ties, and they live with a sense of meaning. Their brains, like their bodies, stay remarkably young. So, how can we translate their wisdom into daily action? Here's a simple checklist of 7 habits proven to support brain longevity. 1. Eat mostly whole, colorful foods that nourish your brain, and limit processed junk. 2. Move your body every day, even if it's just a brisk walk. 3. Challenge your mind with learning, reading, or problem-solving. 4. Sleep deeply and consistently, giving your brain time to recharge. 5. Manage stress before it manages you, with breathing, meditation, or journaling. 6. Stay socially engaged, nurturing friendships and connections. 7. Use technology wisely, as a tool for growth, not distraction. These are not quick fixes. They are long-term investments. But like compound interest in a savings account, the earlier and more consistently you apply them, the more powerful the results. Imagine yourself 20 years from now. Will you be struggling to remember simple details, or will you still be sharp, curious, and creative? The answer depends on the habits you choose today. Your brain isn't doomed to age faster than your body. In fact, science shows it can stay vibrant for as long as you live, if you give it the care it deserves. Longevity isn't about avoiding aging, it's about aging well. And the best time to start is right now. Let's return to the businessman we met at the very beginning. The man who once sat in a boardroom, paralyzed with embarrassment because he couldn't recall the name of a longtime partner. That moment could have been the beginning of a decline, a slow slide into forgetfulness and diminished confidence. But instead, he chose a different path. He decided not to surrender to age but to fight back with intention. He began small, adjusting his meals to favor brain-friendly foods, carving out time each day for a brisk walk, and committing to learning Spanish, something he had always put off. Slowly, he rebuilt his sleep routine, replacing late-night emails with a calming ritual. He practiced mindfulness when stress threatened to consume him. Most importantly, he reconnected with friends he hadn't spoken to in years, rediscovering the joy of conversation and laughter. Fast forward a few years, and the scene in the boardroom looks completely different. This time, when he speaks, his words are sharp, his memory flawless, his energy contagious. Colleagues marvel not at his age, but at his vitality. He no longer fears the passing years because he knows his brain is stronger than ever. And that's the message for all of us: aging is inevitable, but mental decline is not. You have the power to shape the future of your brain with the choices you make today. Every meal, every walk, every hour of sleep, every book read, every friendship nurtured, they are all investments in a mind that stays young, curious, and alive. You can either let time dictate the pace of your decline, or you can step forward and dictate the pace of your growth. The choice is yours. So, don't wait. Don't assume it's too late. Don't underestimate the power of small daily actions. Start today. Because your brain, the very center of your creativity, memory, and identity, deserves the best care you can give it. Start today. Your brain deserves it.